first, before we get into the interview, Dusty, I just want to express my deep appreciation for everything that you've done for Positive Coaching Alliance. You've made countless trips down from Sacramento to the Bay Area to meet with donors, to meet with PCA partners. You've recorded videos that have reached hundreds of thousands of coaches across the country. And PCA has experienced a ton of growth over the last 5 years, and a big part of that growth has been having you on our team. So just really want to appreciate you.
Thank you. Dave, I'd like to add, though, that, hey, man, this guy here, you don't want him to get after you because, man, it's hard to say no to him. I mean, anybody that knows him, you know, I'll say, man, I'm so tired, Dave. He'll go, oh, that's okay, Dusty, get some rest. But can you show up anyway? Yes, Dave, I'll be there.
So as you see on the signs behind us, PCA's mission is better athletes, better people. I don't think there's anybody that personifies better athletes, better people more than Dusty Baker. Better athletes, he was an incredible player, two-time All-Star, won a World Series with the Dodgers, and had an incredible career as a player. But then better people, I think even more so than better athlete. He was a leader in the military, he was a leader as a player, he was a leader as a manager, he's a leader in our community, and I think everybody that comes into contact with Dusty Baker is a better person because of the time that they've spent with him. So Dusty, we're heading into the bottom of the ninth inning here. It's been a long night, and so I've got a few questions to try to tee it up, bring you some inside cheese that you can hit out of the park for everybody here. Okay? So the first question for you is, you're probably as busy now as you were when you were a manager, so it'd be great to tell the crowd here about what you're up to these days.
Well, everybody thinks I'm doing nothing, but actually I'm probably busier now than I was before. I started a new business. It's called Baker Energy Team. I'm just used to being on teams, and you know, we're dealing with alternative energy, which is close to my heart. You know, mostly dealing wind and solar and you know, storage, battery storage, you know, energy storage. And also my daughter came up and my son-in-law came up with my logo, which they're very, very involved in my life. And I also have I started a wine company called you know, Baker Family Wines, which they also did my logo for it. And you know, we'll be legal any day now, because before I was kind of in the moonshine business, but now I'm getting legal. I grow, you know, I have Syrah grapes in my backyard, and I wanted to call it, you know, backyard wine, but they wouldn't let me, and so they're calling it, I guess if it's in your backyard, it's called estate wine. And so I don't quite have an estate, but it's a pretty nice place.
Great. So part of the reason you got this award is just this aura of positivity that you exude, I think, when you're with anybody around you, when you're on the field, etc. Where does all that positivity come from?
Well, I think, number one, it comes from my mother and father, you know, because they were always positive, you know, with us. You know, they gave us everything that we needed, not necessarily everything that you necessarily wanted as a kid, but we had everything that we needed. And my mom and dad were very, very positive. I don't know, it's just something that inside me that won't let me be negative at the same time. I like to win. It keeps me, it drives me to succeed. You know, one of my childhood heroes really, really motivated me as a kid. And I grew up with the great Bobby Bonds. And Bobby Bonds, I wanted to be like Bobby. And he excelled in all sports, and I was with him all the time. My dad was this little league coach, and I went everywhere Bobby went. I was like 4 years younger than Bobby. And so, you know, I was just raised around positive people. I'm very proud to say that, you know, we have Pat Bonds, Barry Bonds' mother in the house, Pat. And see, we grew up, you know, I grew up my first 15 years in Riverside. And, you know, the whole town raised you, just like they say, you know, the village raises a child. And, you know, that's how it was in our town. Our town at that time was 50,000 people. And so everybody knew everybody. And so if you were doing something bad on the street, the word got home before you got home. And if they chastised you on the street, then you'd get double chastisement when you got home. So, and also, the fact that we were raised, I think, in the church, and the church won't let you be negative because that's what keeps you driven, no matter how bad things are. And everything hadn't been up in my life necessarily, but I knew that the sun was going to shine tomorrow. And as long as I can get up and the sun's going to shine, then I have a chance to succeed in whatever I want to succeed in.
Great. So I was at dinner with Tommy Lasorda about a month ago, your ex-manager, and I said, "What do you have to tell me about Dusty?"
Oh, Lord.
And he told me a story that in 1976 you were rounding third base and that you invented the high five. That he had never seen it done before.
Well,
so can you tell me if that's true and how that came about?
Well, actually, it was 1977.
Okay.
But
He's
that's
getting
okay.
older.
Yeah, he is. Hey, I hope I'm as sharp as Tommy is at 86 or 87. But anyway, I had I was my next to last at bat, and 3 guys had 30 home runs already, and I was trying to be the fourth guy, and to go in the record books. No team had ever had 4 30 home run guys, and it was my last day, and next to last at bat, and it was against J.R. Richard, my nemesis. This guy, I never hit a home run off J.R. And so Tom Lasorda, I came in the dugout after my second at bat, and I struck out, and I said, "Man, I don't think I'm going to get it." And then Tommy's like, "I don't want to hear that." This guy's the most positive guy. You think I'm positive? He's super positive. And so he's like, "I don't want to hear that." He goes, "Do you think that the children of Israel doubted the Lord when he parted the Red Sea?" I said, "Okay, Tommy, you gotta believe. You gotta believe." I said, "Tommy, I believe, okay?" So I went up there and I hit the ball. Looked like it stopped, and low and away fastball hit over center field fence. I was the fourth guy to hit the 30th home run, and when I came in, my teammate actually invented the high five. I like to clarify that because Glenn Burke is my teammate. He's deceased now, but Glenn put his hand back, and what else do you do except hit his hand? And this is how I guess I started. And then like last week, I did this Comedy Central thing. They said, "Dusty, come down here, man. We want to do the high five on Comedy Central." I'm like, "Man, I don't want to do no Comedy Central. I don't even watch Comedy Central." So my son, he's like, "Dad, you got to go to Comedy Central." So I went and did it.
So one of the things that PCA talks about is that as coaches, 70% of your communication with your athletes is nonverbal, and the high five is one of the best ways to fill the emotional tank of an athlete. So it's great to know we have the founder.
Yeah, but now I kind of like the fist bump because, man, you can get sick giving high five now, and then you rub your eye or something on your mouth, so
So as an athlete, coach, and player, I'm curious, who are some of the people in your life along the way that had the biggest impact on you?
Number one, my dad. And like I said, Bobby Bonds, I was trying to be like Bobby Bonds. And then I had some tremendous coaches along the way. You saw my coach, Eli McCullough, who talked about me. And this guy was with me when my parents got divorced, and he recognized personality changes in me. All of a sudden I was quiet and I was missing shots and doing things, but I wanted to talk to somebody, but I didn't know who to talk to. And so he asked me, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he says, "Everything's okay at home." And then I just needed somebody to talk to, and I talked to him. And that was a big time in my life, which helped me deal with players on my teams, and when I could see differences in their personalities, to tell something was wrong, because people want to talk to somebody, they just don't know who they can trust to talk to, and that's number one. I think you have to have the trust of the players, you have to have the trust of people, and you have to have the trust that you won't turn around and tell everybody what they just confided in you. And I think that's one of the lessons that I learned from him. I had Jim Gilliam, I had Tom Lasorda, I had Preston Gomez, and I was usually the youngest guy on the team someplace, and I had great teammates that always took care of me. Hank Aaron was very, very influential in my life. To start off with the Braves, he promised my mother that he would take care of me as if I was his son. I signed with the Braves at 18 years old. Here I was with Hank Aaron almost every day. And he made me go to church. He made me get up and eat breakfast. I was like, man, I'm grown now. He goes, he says, no, you're not. And so, I always had a person protecting me. And I just felt the need that once I became a little older and as a coach, or especially as a coach, I think it's a little tougher as a manager, because as a coach is like talking to your uncle. You can almost tell your uncle anything, but I don't know if you can all tell your dad almost anything. Does that make sense? And we spend more time, with your kids than you do, and we have a definite influence and impact, on their lives, on their families. We see them from girlfriend, boyfriend when they start to married, to kids, to divorce, to remarried, to all kind of stuff. And a big thing for me is I remember asking Bill Russell, what was the secret to the Celtics? Because I didn't like the Celtics, so they always beat the Lakers. And so I asked Bill, I said, man, what was the secret of the Celtics? And he told me that they loved each other. And that was kind of the most shocking answer that I thought, that's the one I expected the least. And then when I hear the coach up here talking about love, and that's what it's all about. You got to love each other. You're not always going to get along, but at the same time, if you love each other, you'll find a way to work out whatever differences that you have and not care them for it.
Great. And related to loving your players, you've introduced me to probably 10 or so of your former players over the years to get them involved with PCA. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions I've asked each of them in the conversations I've had with them is, what kind of relationship did you have with Dusty when he was your coach? And I think the most common thing that came back, 8 or 9 of the 10 said this, was Dusty was my uncle, my father, my grandfather, my brother. He could play all those roles. So I'm curious, how did you develop that deep of a relationship with all of those players?
Well, number one, I was oldest of 5. And so, when you're thrust into that leadership role in your family, you see the love. I think the family is the most important thing that we have. You learn how your uncles treat you, and you learn about parenthood. The only 2 things I missed in life, in my life, is the love of grandparents, because I never had. My grandparents were never, they died before I was born, and I was always kind of envious of the kids that had grandparents around, and I could see the love that they got. And the other one was being a big man on a college campus, because I signed out of high school. And so those are the only 2 things I missed. And this is the truth. And so, there's
no doubt you would have been the big man on campus.
Well, at least in my mind I was. I would have been. And, it's just something that my dad always, would tell me. He says, son, treat people the way you want to be treated. And my mom would always tell me, hey, son, be nice to everybody. Because you can't tell if the guy that's homeless over there could have been a doctor or a lawyer. And the other day I was with my son, and I know hopefully, some of the lessons that I learned, he's learning, and I was very proud of him when he told me. He said, Dad, a guy on the corner, was a panhandler, had a sign, and my son said, Dad, give him some money. And I started to tell my son, why don't you give him some of your money? But I didn't. So, but he said, Dad, give him some money. He says, Dad, that could have been the angel right there. And I was like, okay, now lets me know that my son's on the right track. And like I said, see, I'm very lucky because I have a 35-year-old daughter. That's wonderful. Stand up, Tosh. And her husband, Tim. And then I have a 16-year-old son. Stand up, son. And I have a much younger wife. Stand up, wife. And so those combinations of things keeps me hip on past and my time, present with my daughter, and then future generational stuff with my son. I mean, and guys are like, man, how do you know that song? And I got the hippest iPod in the world. I don't know who's singing half of it, but my son and daughter keep me hip on what's up. So
speaking of Darren, I got the opportunity to go watch a game with you last week at Jesuit High School. And first of all, he's a heck of a player. Plays shortstop, bats leadoff for Jesuit High School. But I got to see you as a sports parent, which was a lot of fun. So I'm curious if you can tell the crowd a little bit about your philosophy as a sports parent and any advice you would give to high school sports parents here.
Well, all I know is that I'm more nervous at his game than I was at any of mine. Every time balls hit to him, I'm nervous. Or when he's up at bases loaded, I get a little nervous. Now I know how Pat Bonds felt the whole time that Barry was up. But my advice was the same thing that a lot of the coaches up here were talking about. You let them play. Let them play. Let them, have a good time. They're going to fail. Sometimes I think we overcoach sometimes, and we try to push 30 years of our knowledge onto them at 12 or 13 or 14 years old. I mean, I believe that we should give them some knowledge, but some of it just go play and enjoy playing. And the one thing I notice about the kids is that they can get over a loss a lot quicker than I could. Because it's like there's nothing ever happened within 5 minutes. They're crying and 2 minutes ago, now the sun's up, everything's fine. And the one thing that I would suggest that I see, because sometimes it's difficult for me to sit and listen to some of the negative things, and that's why I love PCA, because you're really teaching people. I don't think a lot of people know how to coach positively. I think they want to be positive as much as possible. But basically, I feel that we kind of live in a negative world, and that's what you see on TV. That's what you hear on TV. Or when I was at one game, I'd tell one father, "Hey man, why don't you lighten up?" Because his son popped up with bases loaded, and I really see this now since I'm seeing his games. And the dad goes, "Oh, you stink," like that to his son. And I was like, "Man, don't say that." He goes, "Well, he does stink." And I says, and he says, "Well, he didn't hear me." And I was like, "That's not the important part. The important part is the attitude that he's going to see on your face. I mean, don't tell him that they did great. I don't like that either. Good job. He's gave up 22 hits and 17 runs. You can't tell him that. Just you be honest with them, but you got to let them know." That you're with them. Because, see, the one reason I used to like a lot of the kids in the dugout and in the clubhouse is because no matter what kind of game you have, you don't know what it feels like to have a bad game and then have your kid come up to you and say, "It's okay, Dad. You'll get them next time." Or "Dad, I love you anyway." And it's like, man, that just melts you, and it makes it a whole lot easier to deal with things and puts things into a proper perspective, because sometimes I think we overanalyze things, and sometimes we put too much importance on things that aren't really that important on the overall scale of things. And I had to learn that the hard way because I'm a cancer survivor of 14 years and I'm a stroke survivor of 2.5 years. So it just puts things in the proper perspective, and goes back to love and family and friends and my homeboys that are here tonight. Some of them I've been knowing since I was in second grade. Some of them I've been knowing since I was 15. Just don't ask them anything because they lie a lot.
So as we watched that game last week, there were two things that I observed of you as a sports parent. One was the incredible nonverbal communication that you had with everybody on the team. You were constantly clapping your hands. And I think the second thing was calm down, relax. You'd always tell the players that. And I think the second thing that was very impressive was most parents, you'll watch them, they're cheering for their child only. And you cheered just as much for every player on that team as you did for Darren.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do, I think. It's a team. And, I'm not only out there to watch my son, I'm out there to watch the team. And, it's fun being out there. I love being out there. I'm a part-time coach that they want me to be full-time, but that's a heck of a commitment. And, yeah, that's a good question. I'd have Dave ask me. Yeah, okay, Dave, I'm full-time now. But, it's a situation where, I like being around kids. And, kids give me energy, and I'm hoping that I could give them some wisdom and knowledge. And then it's a trade-off. I love being around kids. Kids do some things that just crack you up. Sometimes I don't want them to see me laughing. But I go around the corner like, man, that was so crazy.
So over the last 2 years, you've spent a lot more time in youth sports than you have before. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what are some of the changes you'd like to see in youth and high school sports?
Boy. Well, some of the changes I'd really like to see would be, I don't like the specialization of having kids just play one sport. Because if I had to choose at 12 or 13, or I see these kids that are pitchers only, but this kid could probably hit or play another position, or if you don't only play baseball in the fall, then you're not going to make the team. I think that's one of the worst things that they've ever done. Because if I was a kid at 15 years old, I probably wouldn't be playing baseball because I didn't even want to play baseball as a kid that much. I wanted to play basketball or football. But circumstances happened in my life where baseball chose me, and I chose baseball, and I've had a good life. I had a heck of a life. And so that's the number one thing I'd like to see is let these kids play as many sports as they possibly can play, and get them out of the house. I think that's big. My son, he has, and my wife buys this box and that box, and I don't know all the boxes that they have in my house, but we have every one of them. And see, sometimes you got to get out of the house. You know what I mean? Or like we're driving down the street. I said, son, just look out the window, because the head's down all the time doing something. I said, son, he said, well, Dad, what am I going to look out the window for? I said, just look out the window. You might see something. and then we were in Vancouver, or we were in Tofino or someplace, and my son saw an eagle like swoop down. Wow. And he goes, Dad, I saw an eagle, man. I said, well, see, if you had your head down like this, you wouldn't have seen that.
So, Dusty, as you watched that video when we sat on the stage here, I'm sure there was a lot of emotion and memories that came to you.
Yeah.
So as you think about this Lifetime Achievement Award that you're getting from PCA, any reflections that you have?
Well, most of the time I think a Lifetime Achievement Awards, most of the time the guy's not here. Yeah. And I think I'm still here. And the second thing that I see is hopefully I might have done something to influence the players that played for me positively in their life. And I remember, I've read a lot about leaders and different things. And I remember Vince Lombardi said that the thing that he wished most for his players were, that they would be successful after they get out of baseball, and that they, would have enough finances to take care of their families or send their kids to school or whatever. And this is the things that I want the most, for my players is to be successful in life. and because there's a whole lot of life after baseball. And I mean, if you play baseball 20 years, you still, but about 40 years old, what are you going to do about the next 40 years? And so just to stay motivated to do something, to try to, give things back to somebody, because none of us did it by ourselves. I mean, we all had influences. We all had somebody positively in your life. So, I was always told that it's not yours to possess, but it's yours to pass on whatever was given to you. And so that's my job. My job is to pass it on to you, even if you don't want it sometimes. Like Hank Aaron told me, whatever I give you or tell you, you just retain it, because someday you might understand what I'm telling you. Because he used to ask me all the time. Like I thought my name was like Boy till I was 25. And he's like, hey, boy, you understand me? Yes, I do. And yes, sir. And I didn't understand anything half the time. But like he told me, just retain it, and someday, you can apply it to a situation, and that's what's happened in my life.
Great. Well, Dusty, this has been incredible, all the wisdom that you've shared with the group here today, and you're an incredible class of Lifetime Achievement Award winners. John Wooden, Dick Gould, Bruce Bochy, Phil Jackson, Tara Vanderveer.
Wow.
Just an incredible group that you 100% deserve to be a part of.
But someday I don't really feel like I deserved, this award that much. I mean, I feel that the amateur coaches that were up here, I feel like they deserve the award, more than me, because and the reason I feel like that, because I was making a heck of a living out of what I was doing. And I don't know if coaching's changed at the amateur level, but I mean, you're not coaching for the money. You're coaching for the love of what you're doing, and the love of kids, and to have an influence on their lives. And I just would like to thank the amateur coaches up here, and like to thank PCA for giving me an award, and also for the generosity of the people that have been contributing to PCA. I mean, because they have some heavy people in this room in here. Yeah. And I mean, and I don't mean heavy in the sense of the word. I'm talking heavy pockets, and that's what I'm talking about. And I appreciate your generosity, and that's what it's all about. And I was always taught to give. And, like my dad said, if whatever you give, the Lord will give it back to you tenfold. And that's the story in the history of my life, because I'm afraid not to give now, because it's been so good to me. I mean, every time I turn around, something else good happens, to me. And I'm blessed, and I believe that everybody in this room, is equally blessed. But you just have to accept it and believe it.
And Dusty, I think so many athletes today in professional sports are not necessarily role models for our youth, and then also coaches. But you're 100% a great role model for hundreds of thousands of coaches and millions of athletes across the country.
Well, but something, I don't blame the athletes. And like Bob Marley says, don't blame the children, blame the adults. I mean, it's our fault for not giving it to them a sense of obligation of giving. And because it's easy to be selfish, so we have to teach them to be unselfish. And if all of us could teach our kids, teach people, period, to give, to love, and to be unselfish, then hey man, we'd be way, way, way ahead in the world. So thank you very much.
And Dusty, just to add one last thing, you've been incredible.
Man, I thought it was one last thing right there.
one more last thing. You've been incredible to work with over the last 6 years or so since we've known each other. You've been a great mentor to me and really helped me grow as a professional and individual. And then also, I think just everybody that you've touched, you've really helped become a better person. And I think about, the words that are synonymous with Dusty Baker, and I think tonight there's 6 words: better athletes, better people, lifetime achievement.
That's
so
cool.
thank you, Dusty.
That's cool. Thank you, brother. You're a good man.
Yeah, you too.